Well, hello, my name is Robyn. Welcome back. Today is the day after my Thanksgiving. I'm in Canada and I did a late Thanksgiving for a Canadian and an early Thanksgiving for an American. Now, I've got some broth going here. I got that started last night and I need to make more yogurt. I've had some people saying, how do you make yogurt in your Instant Pot? So I'm going to do that. I'm also going to freeze dry some leftover turkey MREs coming up too. But first, let me tell you about the yogurt real quick. Now, what I used to do was use a bigger pot on the stove, and I would do the first part of the yogurt in there, and then I would pour it in here and finish it off in the Instant Pot. But first of all, my bigger pot has some oil in it, and I keep wanting to make falafel, and I haven't. It's in the outside fridge. So I've been doing it in the Instant Pot lately. But what you want to do to avoid letting the milk cook onto the bottom of your Instant Pot is to put ice cubes in it. And I didn't have any ice cubes, so while I was getting ready this morning, I put a little bit of ice or a little bit of water in the bottom and stuck it in the freezer. Because I think what happens is that there's a small layer that forms, a small layer of water that forms between the milk and the pot. So I'm just going to pour out this ice that I sort of just got pre-frozen. And if this works well, I'm perfect. And then we're going to get started. So let's go. So I've got my milk. We use whole milk for this. I want a high fat yogurt. I think it's just better for you. Plus there's actually a lot of evidence that shows that the high fat yogurt or high fat dairy can actually be good for you. Probably not in huge quantities. Apparently a lot of our saturated fat comes from dairy and not so much red meat, but I don't know. They're still sort of sorting out the whole situation. And for me, I like the protein that comes from this. My husband, every morning, he will have a delicious yogurt parfait with the granola that I made in a video a couple weeks ago. You can check that out. I'll link that recipe below too. So what we do is I'm going to get this started, and don't ever trust the Instant Pot to actually get this process correct. Now I'm going to put it on, and what you do is you do the yogurt setting, and we go to high start. Now, what it will do is it will tell you that it's done when it is not done. We want to put our thermometer in there and check it to make sure that we're over 180 degrees, which is the pasteurization point. So that's going to kill any extra bacteria in there. This is the way I've done it. Apparently there are no boil methods as well, but this is the way I do it. And I've done it this way for 7 years. It works out every time. And it's really, a pretty easy process. Now I'm going to get my culture out of the freezer and just let that melt. So for this part, I just get a little ramekin, and these are my yogurt cultures. I pre-froze just a yogurt from the store. I use just a Greek yogurt. It doesn't really matter if it's full or non-fat because you want the culture. I think I try to buy full fat just because, but I pre-freeze them in these. These are super cubes. They're so helpful for freezing all sorts of things. And this will freeze, it has a mark for 1 tablespoon and 2. You can do 1 tablespoon, but I just fill it up to 2 and I just plop it in there and I let that defrost while the milk is coming to its pasteurization point. And then I will meet you there when we're getting close. And we're just gonna let this kind of soften up in the meantime. So later today, while the broth cooks and the yogurt yolks, I'm going to be going to Costco in another town because my town has the worst Costco on Vancouver Island. It is really small. I mean, it's not a terrible Costco. It's just very small. We don't have a lot of options. And the one up north in the town of Courtney has way more. It's huge. There's so much stuff there. So we're going there. We also need propane, so we're going there. They don't sell that at the one here, and it's so much cheaper. But my fridge, first of all, it needs room for the second step of the yogurt. And I just think it needs a bit of a clean out. So I'm going to do that, and I will just chat with you while I do that, okay? I don't know about you, but I always overlooked the importance of having a clean fridge and freezer. And my friend Mary Beth from At What Cost was saying to my friend Maddie from Let's Eat Plants and I how much she likes to get her fridge cleared out before the holidays. And I thought, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. This has been here for weeks. I'm going to get more today. And that might sound gross, but it isn't. I wash my lettuce, I let it kind of dry, and then I vacuum seal it into jars with my vacuum sealer, which I always have linked below. And it just makes it so, it lasts so long, like weeks and weeks. I just finished some, I think from that very one that was like 4 weeks old, but totally delicious and fresh. Anyway, so what I'm saying is I am cleaning out this fridge just because, yes, a bunch of things are going to be happening. We're going to be doing a lot of cooking. There's going to be a little bit of entertaining. In fact, I made a video just the other day where I had to put something in the freezer and I was like, oh my gosh, I have not done my freezer in so long. And it was all, normally I have it kind of organized like with the fruit and the vegetables on the very bottom. And then I have the meat. I mean, it's frozen, so it shouldn't really matter. And then, you know, different things, but it had all been jumbled up. I actually managed to organize it, but I was like, yep, this is why it's important. Now, the yogurt, what I'm doing here, you could see it says boil, and I needed to be testing the temperature. So I keep coming back and I'm testing the temperature and I'm waiting for it to get to over 180, which this is. It's at 180. Then you normally have like a pretty clear countertop, but obviously, I think I was probably waiting for a kid to empty the dishwasher, but I make sure that the fridge is clean. I don't want any splashing. That's why I generally don't like dishes around and stuff in the sink, but I have the lid on so things can't splash in. And I fill up the sink with cold water just to bring that temperature down because I need the temperature to be at 100, between 110 and 120-ish. And then I can mix in the culture, which again is just a yogurt I bought from the store. Now you can reuse your culture, like each batch saves some, but I don't know, like I'm not really using a lot of sterilized stuff other than the pot initially. So I don't do that. I just, once I've run out of culture, I buy another one. And once the temperature is down to around 110, 120, Fahrenheit, then I mix in the culture. If you do it higher than that, you're going to kill your culture. So then what I do is I just pop the lid on. You can use the lid that comes with it or this little lid, and you set it to just cook under the yogurt setting. And I do around 7 to 8 hours, and then you just walk away. Well, now it was definitely time to make some stock that I started the day before. And I just started out with some celery that I had already had freeze dried. I put in some onion, got some herbs from the garden, popped in some pepper because I want it like nicely flavored. And then I just like dumped in the meat, gave it a stir. It's nice to get things like a little bit browned. And then I just started adding the water more and more. And then I just let it cook overnight. The next morning, the house smelled absolutely amazing. And then I just put it out in the garage once it was done to cool off, and then you'll see what I did with it. Okay, we just got back from our trip about an hour ago and I had a quick workout because I had just been sitting so much, and I decided that I wanted to freeze dry this garlic along with some of that leftover turkey dinner. So I got my husband to break the cloves apart, or like the bulbs, and now I have all these cloves, and like I took quite a bit of the chaff off here, but we're gonna get started. Okay, I cracked the code on doing a bunch of garlic. So here's what you do. First of all, I think it's really handy to have garlic that has big cloves, because the bigger the cloves, the less you really even, like the less cloves you have to deal with, right? So what you do is you hit it, you slice it, and then quite often, like when you take the little slice end off, it peels off side. Throw it in the bowl. Hit it, slice it, and then like that. And then we're gonna shake it. Or you can slice it first, which I was also doing because I straight up forget what I'm doing half the time. There we go. See? Just like that. Definitely pay attention so you don't cut yourself. This one's just going to pop out, so that's handy. Now, I was doing more than 3, but since I'm showing you, I'm just going to do this. Then you shake it for like 5 seconds, and then they either come straight out of their skin, or you can just pop them out of their skin, just like that. Like, oh, that is so much easier. That's going to save me a lot. Okay, so I have this much. Initially, I was thinking, this is a lot, by the way. I was thinking of pressing it, and then I was like, no, I am not doing that. No way. I'm going to just chop it in the food processor. I did the same. I don't want it like minced mint. No, what's the word? I'm like pureed. Minced is good. I still have some in here, but my hand, the heel of my hand, and a lot of that's paper, but the heel of my hand is really sore from smacking the knife. And it's so sticky. So I thought, I'm just going to leave it for now. I probably will freeze dry the rest. We'll see. I think it's going to be really handy to have. But I may just stick it in the freezer, and that would be fine too. But I'm going to mince this up, chop it up, and then we're going to get the turkey MREs ready to go and get everything in the freeze dryer. And then tomorrow, well, in a bit, this is all the paper. Look at that. It's like, woo! Then tomorrow, well, I'll come back in a bit, but this has another half hour-ish. Quite often, I only do it for 7 hours, and then I just stick this in the fridge overnight. So let's get the trays ready for the turkey MREs. But first, we're going to chop up the garlic. Me plant it in my last video, or the video before. I love garlic. Oh, that texture is great. Check this out. That is a really good. Put my finger in there for reference. That's chopped up really nicely. Okie dokie. So I'm going to show you the bowl that I made for myself for my leftovers. And it is turkey. I've got my yummy Brussels sprouts. I don't think Brussels sprouts would rehydrate from the freeze dryer well. I've got my roasted potatoes. And I just think that it would be a waste. A straight up waste. And this is a very thin gravy. I thinned it out because I wanted more, because one of my sons used way too much gravy. I'm going to put in mashed potatoes. I'm going to put in stuffing. And I just heated up, like defrosted, basically some broccoli from Costco. I don't know how it's going to rehydrate. I actually have some commercially freeze-dried broccoli downstairs, so I don't know. But I'm just going to make up these little MRE packs. I think I might do 6. We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to get started. Fats don't freeze-dry well because freeze-drying is taking the moisture out and like via water. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to add butter to these potatoes anymore. Like, some fat is fine, obviously. But what I'm going to do is I'm just doing like one. Maybe you know what? I'm going to do 4. And I want them kind of separated. So stuff with fat is fine, but there's just no point in adding extra. Plus, I used a lot of butter when I was cooking. So it's fine. All right. Now, I'm going to get some stuffing on here. Is anybody else like me and not a huge fan of like having a lot of lights on? I like some lights, I just don't like a lot of lights. And this is my sourdough stuffing. It's so yummy. You can grab all of these recipes below. And I also will weigh these pans before I freeze dry them, just to get a rough idea of how much water to add after.
Not a lot of vegetables. I'm a big vegetable eater, but these aren't really for me. And my husband loves vegetables too, but I don't know how the broccoli is going to rehydrate. So I just thought, don't stress about it. This is for when he's working. You know, everybody knows you don't eat vegetables when you're working. Oh, I haven't even got some turkey on yet. That would be hilarious if I forgot the turkey. I'm going to cut some leg meat and put it on. But this is what I've got, and then I'm going to weigh it. Got the gravy on, and now here I will put the garlic. But first, let me do the turkey before I forget. Okay, I'm going to spread it out a bit because it shouldn't be this thick. And then I'm going to first get my garlic out. And then we're going to, actually, first I'm going to turn on the freeze dryer.
I mentioned before that I didn't want the MREs, like the turkey dinner, too thick. And that's for a couple of reasons. The pans aren't super thick. There are 5 that fit in the freeze dryer, and they used to hold a bit more. It used to only be 4, but 5 is perfect because you actually don't want it that thick anyway, because it is removing moisture and it can take some time. Now, these meals were not, it wasn't like a super long process if you're doing like liquid or eggs. I mean, people will do milk. That can take days, which is fine, but this is actually not a super long process, and it was so awesome. I love it. And I should tell you that there's only a little bit longer that you can grab the Black Friday sale for Harvest Right, which I will link below. It is absolutely my favorite thing in my kitchen. It saves me so much. I have so many things freeze dried. This garlic, for example, is amazing to have because I just take like a tablespoon out, a teaspoon out every time I cook, and I absolutely love it. So check out the link below. Popped it in and set it and forget it. And then I took my yogurt out and popped it in the fridge overnight. Okay, next morning, this has sat overnight in the fridge. I think you could leave it just as long as it's chilled, really. And now what I'm going to do is strain it because I like it really, really thick. Almost like cream cheese thick. I don't know if my husband likes it that thick. Do you like it that thick? No, he doesn't like. He's very shy. He has never been in one of my videos in how many years of YouTube. Okay, so what I do is I take this bowl, which actually just goes to my salad spinner, and I put a colander in it here, and I line it. I was lining it with cheesecloth, but now I line it with coffee filters, although I will also line it with cheesecloth, and I just actually bought some pre-cut cheesecloth strips, and I just want to wash them first. I had bought some from Amazon, and I just did not like them. And I just put them out. I just put 4 on here, and I just push it down like that, and I just pour this in here. Just like that. Put this on, and then I will just let this sit in the fridge for anywhere from like 4 to 6 hours. And the longer you leave it, the thicker it'll be. If you don't like it super thick, just leave it on for a little bit. There will be quite a lot of whey that drains off right away. Like even there, you can see like immediately that much has come off. So for me, I usually do about 6 hours, and then I will put it away and we'll get to the rest of the preserving this week. Now, I am doing a step that I missed for a very long time with the freeze drying stuff. You can see I was like, never mind. This is still frozen. I'll explain that in a minute. But what I am doing is getting the weight on the garlic. And then I'm going to come back and see if the weight has changed. And if it hasn't changed, then it is done. And then I just set it to run again. So I just weighed the trays. I just take my little kitchen scale down here. I didn't even bother weighing the ones with the meals on them because I could still feel some cold, even though it's in a warming section. Basically, anytime you feel cold, you know it's not done. So it's like 121 Fahrenheit in there. But I did weigh the garlic. So in a couple, like 3 hours, I'm going to come back, weigh them all. And then I will maybe take the garlic out if it's done and package that up. But then the meals,
I will put back in and for another hour or two, depending on how they're doing, and then weigh them. After that, if the weight has stayed the same, then they're done. Okay, so we're gonna deal with the stock. I'm gonna close some cupboards because apparently we leave them open. And I'm going to make some soup. Now, I was going to can my stock, but then I thought, you know what? I think it would be better well, my husband said he wanted soup, first of all. So right there, I was like, well, there goes some of the stock. And then I thought, I'm just going to freeze the rest of my super cubes, which is easy. First, for the soup, I'm going to start rehydrating some onions. And then I have a bit of celery still from last year in the freezer. I also have some of that freeze dried, but I thought, oh, I'll use up that celery. And then I'm going to chop up some carrots, which I just harvested from the garden. So I'm going to do that. And then we're going to freeze the stock, get the yogurt put away, and then and then grab the rest of my MREs from the freeze dryer. Look how creamy and yummy that is. Oh my gosh. So good. So something sad just happened. I was getting my garlic out, and when I was putting closing the door because the MREs weren't done yet, and I was not paying attention, and I had these stacked up, and this tray fell, and I lost like half my garlic. But I will be honest, I kind of picked some of it up off the floor, but I just was like, I'm not losing it. But I was very careful, and I left a lot behind. And I have an absolutely wonderful child who just said he was going to clean it up for me. Isn't he just the sweetest thing? So he just went down there right now with a broom and a dustpan to help his old mom out, which is really kind of him. I am so lucky to have such great kids. So he's doing that. But isn't this the funnest thing? That's the first time I've ever dropped stuff and I've come close. So, and I picked up definitely the cleanest. There might be a little floor germs, but let's just like build our immune systems up. A little bit of exposure is always good, right? Right? So I'm hoping that the MREs are done by later this evening. But if they're not, that's fine. I'll just set it to go overnight. It's not a big deal. They've been going since, oh gosh, I can't even remember what time yesterday, but it's not a big deal. So what I'll do, just gonna get the rest of this in here. One day I'm gonna get a nice big funnel and that'll be great. But this actually isn't that bad. It's crazy how little this smells. When I did the onions, oh, the smell of just everything. And it's just like styrofoam. Some of the chunks are a little bigger, but it's good. And my son, the one who's cleaning it up, he loves to cook. That is so sad. Oh, so sad. Oh, tragic. Anyway, he's the one that loves to cook. So he's like, that's the best thing you've ever freeze dried because it's an ingredient. So, Ben, the ingredients, like the onions that are freeze dried, are good for cooking. Maybe not for like guacamole. But the freeze dried guacamole is delicious. Yeah. Like when I made the soup today, that's what I used. Sometimes just sort of jiggling stuff around makes a little extra space. Doesn't really matter if they get broken either. This. So the other one that I use normally is the little handheld one, but I think that the batteries are dead for that or dying. So I also have this attachment for my food saver, and I need to put it in operate and put it in move.
So this is different than the handheld one, just the mini one. This is like the bigger food saver, and I just attach the thing to it, run it, and it is perfectly vacuum sealed. Although I didn't really need to because, believe it or not, I am accessing this garlic all the time.
Okay, so this garlic, I just put a ring on the other one because I was like, it doesn't, like, we're going to be using it. It doesn't need to be like vacuum sealed, but this, I don't know how long it'll take for us to go. I kind of think we're going to go through it quickly. I think I'm going to have to do the rest of that garlic pretty soon, but I can go and throw this in the basement. And then this one, I can just go ahead and put in the pantry for use along with my onions. And I'm going to do carrots soon. I'm going to pull out the MREs pretty quick. And then I will show you rehydrating one of them. Maybe in a couple days because I'm getting kind of tired of it. Okay, so these are finally done. But look at that. Like light as a feather. And these are the weights. So basically I need to subtract 953 from 1464, and that will, then I'll divide it in two, and that will be the water to add to the jars. So this light is like, it's hanging low. The attachment up to the ceiling above is like it's come undone, and it falls lower than the other one, which is so inconvenient because this is always where I stand. I think I'm going to get some new lights. It's broken. I don't like it. So I'm just popping this in here. I don't need to be sort of as carelessly crushing as I am, but there we go. And I'm just going to do 1 meal per jar here and then vacuum seal it. And then this is the perfect meal for my husband when he is working out of the house and on the road. And I said, just go through a coffee shop and just say, can I also get some water? So that's what he's going to do. Okay, so moving that all aside, let's get our super cubes of broth unpacked. And I will honestly say, like, slightest on me crazy, that I am going to, or my preference for sure is to can it. But I mean, when you do can things, you are losing a bit of nutrition for sure. And, you know, freezing, it's not hard to defrost this. Like, if I am making something and it needs broth, all I have to do is melt it. So I can either pop it in the microwave or just put it, like, say I was making soup or stew, just throw one of these little cubes in and it's done. Bob's your uncle. Like, look at, and these are good because they're nice and sturdy, but look at that. That is 2 cups of broth, measured because there's measurements on there. So for broth, and a lot of people, they freeze dry broth. And I probably will do that one day soon too, because you know I love my freeze dryer. Got this done. And then we are going to try one of these. Sure. And then I can just pop this in the freezer, and I have the 1 cup here and then the 2 cups. Woohoo! Okay, so this is like a week later, and I am about to cook a bunch of cookies for a video, and I want to eat something, and I don't feel like cooking. So this is it. I just loosened the top with my little jar opener. It was still vacuum sealed, which is so good. And now I'm going to pour in, that's hot. I'm going to pour in some boiling water, and I'm going to give it just a little stir, just to make sure everything is getting wet. And it is going to absorb it. I'm even going to, because I don't like my food that cold. Such a princess. I'm going to just wrap it with this towel around it. Just to help it stay warm. And just let it sit for just a few minutes. I'm gonna let it sit and then I'll be right back. Okay, it is all done, I think. I checked it about 5 minutes ago. Like, I think it's all totally hydrated. And my husband, he had this last week. He texted me and said, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. So I don't want a piece of bread. I want to see how the meat. Oh my gosh. I've actually never had a rehydrated meat. It's just like as if it was fresh. Okay, let's try this broccoli. And my method worked really well. Not bad for broccoli from the freezer, rehydrated. I mean, I literally just stuck it on the tray. Wow. This is so good. I would totally recommend this as a method to use your leftovers for meals. And my husband loves taking it to work. Such yummy stuff. Check out this video here and this video. These are both meal preps I've done in the past, preservations, and it is just an absolute joy to share it with you. Stay tatty and mighty. I hope something great happens for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.